Good evening, Free Enterprise viewers, and welcome to a match with a distinct sense of finality between Zilch and GeminiHero. Tonight's match is not only the final match of the Ogre Axe group in the Adamant Cup group seeds, it is also the final match of Week 3 of the Adamant Cup and the final match of the regularly scheduled matches of the group stage of the Adamant Cup. Today on Restream duties, we have Xenocat, we have Stoppable Force on tracking duty, and joining me, S-Grunt, in the comms booth today is Nth. How are you doing tonight, Nth?
I'm doing great, and let me tell you, I'm very excited for this race. This is a very, very important race for both of our runners, and a good way to look at it is, if you want to know the stakes for this race, assume it's like a best 2 out of 3 match, and Zilch has already won one. If Zilch wins this race, then he goes on to the play-in match next week against Martin Broadcloak to determine who will be the second competitor moving on from this Ogre Axe group. If GeminiHero wins this race, that leads to a tie at 2 and 3 between both of these runners. They will have to play another tiebreaker match for that chance to go on and face Martin next week in that play-in.
We certainly all love our tiebreakers here, don't we, chat? It looks like today's seed is a bit of a standard one. We've got the one objective on the moon, and we have a total of 7 required key items, if I'm counting correctly. So we should be in for a good ride here.
Yeah, I like seeing the Complete the Giant objective a lot, because I think it sort of throws your plans for how you're going to get the levels throughout your seed into a little bit of chaos. We don't really know whether or not you want to do too much of a grind, and most importantly with these objectives, we don't know if that actual lunar subterrane is going to be required, because that only moon objective is Cave Bahamut. So that could lead to a situation in which, you know, maybe you decide that getting levels on the Giant is a thing. We've kind of been half joking all group stage that D Machine could make an appearance. This is one of the better setups where it could be possible.
It's been relatively rare in this flag set to see runners willing to go to the lengths of a D Machine grind here, but this is certainly a flag set where you might see that possible.
Definitely. It's something we'll probably see more of once we get into bracket stages here in about a little over 2 weeks now, considering you got the play-ins next week and the week off after that. So expect to see more level grinding in the future, and that method where you get those levels becoming a lot more important once we move into the bracket stages.
And I do want to point out we have an Edge start. I'm sure our runners will be very happy to see that. Edge is certainly one of the stronger characters to have right at the start of the scene.
I feel like a lot of the races that I've seen in this tournament so far have fallen into 2 completely distinct categories. Ones where you are very afraid of a possible hook route, and ones where you are not at all afraid of a possible hook route. Edge is almost always in that second category. So that's got to be a very good thing for our runners to see, knowing that they're going to have that good early game power right off the bat, as long as they can find, you know, just one good weapon for Edge to swing.
And we are off to the races. We have Rosa as our other starting character, and a samurai bow as our starting quote-unquote key item, which will be nice for Rosa to have, but generally you do want to see that starting key item be an actual key item. This is a very powerful starting combination now.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where they might be missing that initial key item, but they're not going to be having any trouble getting through the checks to get through it. That Antlion Cave's not going to pose a problem, Fabul's not going to pose a problem, Baronin's not going to pose a problem by the time they get there, unless there's something sort of strange once we get there. And then there's always the chance for something to pop out of Bedward, which it looks like GeminiHero is going to go up and check.
Yeah, and it looks, interestingly enough, like Zilch is looking to loot Mist Cave. This is not an opening play I see very often on this flag set.
It's a very interesting gamble. The loot tiering in the Mist Cave is actually pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's quite solid. It's a fast way of getting those 4 checks. Unfortunately, it seems to be all Aegis shields, but you can sometimes find some good things here. But speaking of finding good things, over on Gemini's side, there's a magma key. There's our underground access already.
Yeah, an early magma key is very interesting to have there, because you have access to a free key item in the Fey March. You've got access to the gated shop in Tomra, and also the Fey March. You have the opportunity to see who the Fey March bosses are. Possibly pick up a couple more key items while you're down there if you're extraordinarily lucky. If you can find sirens early enough, you might consider doing an early grind. There's a lot of options that are open to you if you've got that early magma key.
Definitely, and speaking of things that open up early chances here, GeminiHero in that public treasury finding some mute arrows as well. We find any mage bosses, that samurai bow plus mute arrows on Rosa, those bosses are no problem at all right now. So depending on what we get early, if Zilch doesn't check the public treasury, then Gemini's going to have that bit of an advantage right off the bat.
Gemini electing to check the shops in Troya, finding Cure 2s. Looks like he's selling some things, possibly to buy a stack of Cure 2s. Maybe some illusions while we're here. Yeah. Gemini electing to buy illusions.
Those can be a very, very good early pickup. Rosa's going to take a little while to get to those important spells. It's really kind of making it a situation where Rosa's kind of downside versus Porum is that she doesn't get those key spells early. And so finding those illusions kind of mitigates Rosa's real main drawback. So that's a real good find early on.
Alright, it looks like Gemini is now in Damsian, looking to loot the basement. Presumably they're going to raise, he's going to raise the hovercraft while he's here. Because of that required rat tail objective. Do we find anything interesting in the basement? That silk web will be useful.
Silk webs are one of those things where you kind of want to find them in shops, so you have an extra one or two to throw around, but if you only find one in a treasure chest, then you're not going to hunt for them in shops.
Right. Beyond
that part, so real good pickup there.
Yeah. Also Bacchus wine in one of the last chests that he checks.
We are really well set up before going into a check here.
Yes. Interesting to see where our runners go from here. It's natural that we're seeing the hovercraft raise to that required rat tail. I think Gemini will probably either head to Hobbs for the character check or to Antlion Game from here.
Absolutely, I tend to agree. I think one thing that we probably are not going to see early on for either of these runners is that Fabul check. Normally you would go there maybe a bit early, sort of get that done. It's a good thing to route in because it's a free heal on both sides of it. So if you're having a bit of a rough time, you can take that forward. But with that magma key, we'll want to cut out one trip. And then still finding cursed rings though.
That's a very nice find, especially this early on. Well, generally curse rings are more valuable once you actually start running into situations where you need to control your agility, but still a very nice find. And in the meantime, Gemini is defying my expectations and electing to loot Evelyn Castle, which is admittedly also a fairly common early play. There's a lot of high quality loot that can be found here. I just don't think that Gemini is equipped to take on any of the trapped chests here, which many times are the real prize in Evelyn Castle. Zilch, meanwhile, goes with the flow, so to speak, and is going up Mount Hobbs to find Kane and Dr. Lugay.
Very good find here, if we can find the weapons for Kane. I don't think we've seen too much great... I guess we found a rune axe, so if we find mage bosses, those mage bosses are in for a world of hurt between Mute Arrows Rosa and rune axe Kane. But we don't have much in the way of really, really, really good Kane gear yet, so probably we'll be more tempted to loot with how this party's shaping up so far.
Yes. And Gemini still looting through Evelyn Castle. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, has found all of the trapped chests in Evelyn Castle by now, so should be relatively smooth looting going forward. Zilch is now in the second, well, was in the second part of the Dr. Lugay fight, and is now through that, and can claim Kane as his prize.
Absolutely, but Gemini might have just found an even better prize on one of these chests, and two of these chests, actually, three of them, finding samurai arrows, a heroine robe, that rose is going to be great, and finding a Masamune for that edge as well. He is very fully online with this loot just from the non-trap chests alone, and it looks like he's just going to go ahead and bow out now.
With that kind of equipment, Edge and Rosa are now prepared to take on just about anything. Interestingly enough, Gemini is heading back into Evelyn to continue looting.
Absolutely. You know, I was on commentary for his race yesterday that we also had on Restream. I'm not going to say too much about that race because it was a very good race, and I highly encourage anyone who's interested to go and rewatch it. But he does like this very early check to just sort of see what he can get out of the non-trap chest, and he's found a white spear for that cane and an Artemis bow for that Rosa as well.
Gemini's going to be very happy when he finds that cane, because this is now a party that's equipped to basically demolish most of the overworld at this point. Zilch, meanwhile, is approaching the boss at Atline Cave, electing to have done very little looting on the way through. That is a Sparkle. Who's our lunar boss today? That is Pale Dim. There's certainly worse lunar bosses you could find in this spot.
Absolutely, but I think you kind of want to find the bad bosses in this spot to some extent. Pale Dim's, I would say, usually the second easiest moon boss, so kind of almost a little bit of a disappointment that you're not getting like an Ogo Pogo or something like that out of the way right now. Right.
But it's through that fight with relatively little difficulty, and picks up a defense sword as the prize.
Oh, there goes the advantage of that white spear on GeminiHero's side. Defense sword sort of kind of comes out basically even with white spear. I've seen the math a long time ago. There's obviously some nuance. White spear is going to be better if it can hit a weakness, but in general, defense sword is slightly better, so that'll be good for him there.
And GeminiHero now on Hobbs, picking up his cane. Zilch now on the way out of Atline Cave. We will see where Zilch goes from here. Of course, Zilch hasn't been to Downstream Castle yet, and is doing that now.
Yeah, he's just gonna go up. He's gonna skip that side treasury, which I think is the one that had the silk web in it, so not going to have that. Probably still gonna be looking for that at this point. Although we do have an edge, you know, if you want and you find a siren, you can still get a silk web, no problem. So it's not too much of a hunt in these flags with the setup so far.
Right. All right. Hovercraft is launching. We'll see where Zilch goes from here. Baronin might be a possibility, or Deals might be a possibility at this point. Well, of course, we've got the Magma Key going underground at this point. There's also a distinct possibility. To be honest, I'm mildly surprised that none of our runners did this sooner, just given the great amount of checks that you can do just for free while underground.
I'm sort of coming around to the delaying Magma Key a little bit play personally, because I'm starting to feel as time goes on that double dipping Sylph Cave might actually be worse than multi-dipping Fabul in a lot of cases too. So might have been hunting for that pan before we went underground, not finding it in Antline. Might as well just go down instead of trying to deal with other things, get a bit more power on Zilch's side. Gemini might be a bit more comfortable just continuing on the overworld though.
Yeah, perfectly fair play in both cases. Might also be worth delaying the underworld check until after you've done the underground checks until after you've done a little bit of looting. If you say go to Kamra and find sirens there, for example, or some other important item. Zilch is heading directly to Dwarf Castle as his first stop in the underground. Wondering if we're just here to do some shopping, or if we're going to see a boss check while we're here as well. Because this is not a party that's in a position to take on the dwarf bosses quite yet, unless they're completely free.
Yeah, this is probably just an item shop check. Kind of a disappointing item shop. We don't really have Iridia that we're going to be forced to take possibly at all in this seed. So sinking that money on that Leviathan summon's not looking too tempting quite yet. And finding an Hourglass 2 in that pod is probably the real big bonus here, because now if we hit one of those free bosses, we do have an Hourglass for it.
Yeah, Zilch now in Chalmar, electing to visit Jobdorf and all of the loot therein. Jobdorf today is a directory assistance operator. That is a bandana in one of the chests. That's a nice find.
Definitely. We're finding a lot of good loot in the seed, honestly. It's been kind of almost hard to keep track of, because you look at the other side when they're looting and you find that. Zilch finding silk webs in a shop, so now he doesn't have to worry about missing that, doesn't have to try and steal one if he wants one for the Z fight. He's perfectly set.
Yeah, the advantage of having found that in Damsian Basement is now gone. Because if you want silk webs available, they're right there. Zilch now stopping in at the Fame Arch. I expect we're going to see maybe one or two chest checks, but this is certainly not a party that's in a position to take on the trap chests here.
There is a Baigen for a Porum here in the Baron Inn. That's a very good spot to find Baigen, where he's not going to be causing problems later. We have a Gaia Drum too, if you want to just burn that to take him down, but anything should take him down really easily. Just one shot from Rosa, it's over. Yeah, Zilch finding an Artemis bow though.
Yeah, this is with the equipment that Gemini has found at this point. Unless we find something particularly nasty in the second boss spot, it's effectively a free Porum and a free key item. That is some flavor of Mylon, and it is Mylon Z.
I gotta think, if you're in GeminiHero's shoes, right now what you're looking to do with that Porum is let her take a nap and just use her as an anchor later on in the seed, because we don't, on Gemini's side, have that curse ring that Zilch has. So we can't just curse, say, a Fu or a Teller or someone else who's going to give utility in that slot. We're probably looking at an anchor who's on the ground most of the seed. And Porum isn't going to do anything that Rosa isn't going to already do, so pretty good pickup, but not immediately impactful.
So Porum has a spoon first. Zilch, meanwhile, finds the Pan as the Paymarch freebie, which is very nice to find before doing the rest of the Pan checks.
Absolutely, single dip Fabul is happening today. Zilch will be able to just go down and check that, head back up to Fabul, do everything there. Very efficient routing there, going there before anywhere else.
It's a great find before doing Self Cave or doing Fabul at all. We find a Sparkle, and Mom Bomb is the Paymarch boss. Zilch checking Sparkle to find D-Lunars.
D-Lunars is good. If you get something strong enough, you can take those D-Lunars pretty easily, or if you can hold out enough turns, you can do the Lunar Frog strats, just reflect their breath back onto them, take them for free. That's pretty good right there. That's worthwhile to go back for at some point. That Mom Bomb, a little bit not great, not terrible either.
Yeah, there's certainly better bosses you can find in the King slot. There's certainly worse bosses you can find in the King slot. Alright, Zilch leading the Paymarch. I expect we're going to see the Pan turned in right away here. Heading directly to Self Cave from here. We'll make that check immediately and then possibly head directly back up to Fabul to make the other two checks.
Absolutely. Zilch is actually really well positioned to fade ordeals, possibly, if he's tempted to do so, which a lot of our runners have been doing for this tournament. So what Gemini finds up here might be very important.
And that is Plague in the first spot on Ordeals. As far as the Lunar Sparkles go, in this specific spot, Plague is not much of a threat for this party, as we've just seen.
Definitely, and that also means that anywhere we see a Sparkle from this point on can only mean two things: Ogopogo or Wyvern time, and both of those are not great prizes to find at any given spot, so that's going to be weighing heavily. Blue Robe, and that is the Water Hag.
Which is the blue robe you want to see here, because the alt gauntlet, which is the other blue robe that you can see, wastes a lot of time in this spot. Zilch, meanwhile, finds a pink tail from the Self check, and is on his way to Fabul for the other two Pan checks. Unfortunately, Zilch does not have a hook to turn in that pink tail quite yet. An early adamant armor could make all the difference here.
Definitely, and it'll definitely be good for Gemini that that Pan is just sitting down there in the Paymarch, because he's going to find that pink tail really, really easily at this point. So we won't have that bit of disparity, and depending on where that hook is. If the hook is somewhere where Zilch doesn't go or where Gemini doesn't go, though, that is going to be a big, big problem for either runner here.
Alright, that is the end of Water Hag on Mount Ordeals on Gemini's side. In just a few moments, we'll be seeing whether or not Ordeals holds a key item for us and who the remaining boss on Mount Ordeals is. Zilch, in the meantime, is at Fabul and electing to do the Fabul defense before they do the Pan checks.
Absolutely, this will put him right on top of that other tower. Just needs to go right down it, right over to the other tower, go up, and then it's a nice, easy turn in. So we'll be getting 3 key item checks from him in quick succession once he gets through this fight.
Just showing off that efficient routing. That's Dark Elf as the Fabul defense boss.
Dark Elf is not a threat.
Yes, and in a few moments I'll be saying that was Dark Elf in the Fabul defense spot. We have those mute arrows doing work, or I believe those are mute arrows at least.
Absolutely, but very important over on GeminiHero's side. Mandatory mount ordeals today. That is a Luca key, which will count for that 7th objective that we have, that complete the sealed cave. Zilch has to go up here. If he fades ordeals, like some of our runners have been doing very frequently in this tournament, he will end up paying for it in the long run.
Zilch finds the adamant, the chunk of adamant, as the full defense key item. That forge is not an objective today, but it is nice to have that extra key item one way or the other.
Absolutely, and if you find a Cecil and you only have that legend sword and adamant rock and nothing else used for him, that's still a free Excalibur. That's still something to get him online. So always a good find.
Speaking
and hey, there's a legend sword.
Alright, so the pan has been turned in. That's the first objective on the board for Zilch, and finds the Twin Harp as the second pan check.
Getting that first objective on the board and finding that path forward, always a good thing. That's going to keep him wanting to go possibly away from Mount Ordeals, and that's a little bit of a problem with that Luca key there. It will depend on what that Twin Harp has, and it looks like he's going to head straight over there right now.
Yeah, meanwhile, Gemini, Zilch is electing to loot Evelyn Castle as well at this point. Gemini, meanwhile, on the way to turning in the Magma Key and opening his underground access, decides to check the Agart shop, finds cabins there. Nice thing to have in reserve.
Definitely. These shops have been quite kind to our runners so far, but we have not seen... I don't think we've seen coffins yet, we haven't seen sirens yet, we haven't seen hourglasses yet. Those are like the big 3 to me that we're missing at this point, and we're running out of places. Zilch, I think, has checked every single shop that's gated except for obviously the Evelyn Cave one and the Hummingway shop up on the moon, so we're kind of running out of places for those people.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, we also haven't seen Bacchus wine in a chest. Depending on the party composition we end up with, that might prove to be very important to find as well.
Definitely. Zilch gonna burn this hourglass here to get through this Staleman and Skulls fight pretty quickly. One of those things where going underground might have paid off a little bit in the long run. We'll see what these trap chests have, because that's going to make the big difference here. Gemini's been sitting on all that untrapped loot for a while.
I've certainly seen the contents of these trap chests make or break a race for any particular runner at this point. Alright, that is the Staleman encounter down. What's our loot today? Just a white shirt.
It's good for Rosa eventually, but honestly, I'm kind of a fan of just keeping that heroine robe on Rosa as long as humanly possible. Even in the Z fight, if you have a life staff or something like that, having that extra agility from the heroine robe on Rosa can kind of be great, and you make up for the lost wisdom by adding that life staff to it. So that white shirt might not even come into play in the long run, depending on how things go.
I see Zilch doing some equipping here, having just left the castle. I was going to speculate that Zilch might be done looting, but has decided to head back into the castle to continue looting. Finds the Black Cat and Lamia chests.
It's probably the easiest of the two remaining, or the easier of the two, rather. You know, as long as you're not getting blustered and having your party knocked down, which it looks like Edge is going to at least only get paralyzed, thankfully.
Luckily. I do think this party is powerful enough to take on both of these chests. It's just a matter of getting through the fights.
Definitely, and just a question of whether or not those Mad Ogres punch down before the whole thing is over. Gemini's going to head over to Feymarch, going to get that pan, presumably head over to Silk Cave afterwards. He's in good shape to pick up his Pink Tail and Twin Heart Gears.
It looks to open the same chest, well, at least one of the same chests on the way down as Zilch did. That is the Lamia down. Finds an Excalibur in that chest. That's... At the very least, a nice dart for Edge, seeing as we've got the Forge Excalibur ready as well, if we need it.
You know, good cutlery that you can just throw at a boss and not have to deal with that boss later can make all of the difference early on. Yeah, we're in good shape for that.
I've certainly seen the right darts in the right places make all the difference.
Yeah, you get like a demist up on the moon where it has like what feels like 1 billion health because it goes invulnerable half the time, and you're just trying to get it down before it goes into its next cycle. Having really strong darts that's when you realize the true strength of Edge right there and getting you through those fights quickly.
Yeah, or other HP sync bosses, or bosses in unfortunate spots like the Elements spot. If you've got something like, you know, demisted Elements, or CPU Elements for that matter, you'll be throwing the kitchen sink at it.
Already seen CPU at Elements once this tournament. I can't say I'm eager to see it again in this match, because that's when you start to feel that this is not a very fun fight through the other side of the screen here.
Yeah. We've certainly had some interesting bosses at interesting spots all throughout this flag set. We do have required giant today. We shall see what ends up being in that spot today later. Zilch has found the Mad Ogre's chest. The last of the 3 trap chests has that Masamune on Edge, has Berserk Rosa. So this fight will end extremely quickly. That was almost 4,000 damage from a shot from Rosa.
Oh, right. The ogres are mages, technically, so mute.
Punch mages, if you will.
Sorry, how could I forget that these physical attackers, who are clearly only physical attackers, also count as mages?
Alright, that's the end of the Mad Ogre chest. That is a ninja hat.
A very good series of rewards there, given that we have both parts of Forge from Sheila 1 and the Fabul defense.
Yeah, like it's to me, really looting the rest of the castle has panned out better than looting those trap chests, unless Zilch just elects to forego the Forge entirely, which is certainly possible at this point.
Yeah, if Gemini feels a need to go back, has a Cecil later, feels a need to go and grab that Excalibur, then he will definitely make up time there just from finding it in the trap chest on Zilch's side.
Yeah. Well, speaking of
Zilch is headed to Ordeals at least.
Yeah. Yes, speaking of Zilch is headed to Ordeals, is going to find that Luca key there. Gemini is electing to walk back out of the Fey Marsh, which is an interesting move. Perhaps isn't aware of the natural exit from the Fey Marsh.
I wonder if Gemini is going to be tempted to try that sealed cave while he's down here. I don't think he's powerful enough for it yet. I don't think it would be the right play versus just going through the freebies and then, you know, possibly chasing down the Twin Heart, but it's a possibility and a thought that might go through his mind at this point.
Yeah, and we do see Gemini, as we expected, headed down into Self Cave to make his own hand checks. So, yeah, while our runners go through our somewhat familiar territory at this point, I do want to take a moment again to shout out our restreamer, Xenocat, and our tracker, Stoppable Force, and of course my co-commentator, Nth, in the booth today, as well as our wonderful racers, GeminiHero and Zilch. Give all of them a follow if you haven't already. It's a wonderful group of people.
Absolutely, and thanks to you as well. I believe it's our first time on commentary together out of hopefully many.
That's correct. First of many, if you will.
Exactly. I'm really interested in seeing when these runners start sort of really diverging here, because they're kind of going around the same territory, just in a different order at the moment. When do we start seeing those decisions that make a huge difference later on? I'm not entirely sure the seed has been laid out in a great way to allow for those quite yet.
Yeah, we do. Once we've gotten all the way through both of these remaining checks, we'll see if Gemini likes to do the. Gemini is doing the Fabul defense first, but once Gemini has finished the rest of the pan checks and Zilch has the Loki key for more deals, there's really a few different directions you could go from here. Both runners at that point in time will have the Twin Heart and the Loki key in hand, so could choose to go and turn one of the other of those in. Both of those are fairly lengthy checks. So it's possible that they might not want to do that until they think it's absolutely necessary. We do have Dwarf Castle open to us. It's possible that with the equipment that we've got, that you would want to go through those 2 bosses for the character check and the key item. The lower tower is also open to us. We don't have a tower key in hand, so it is quite a bit of time to go up and down that tower, particularly twice, so they may not want to risk claiming that key item in advance. A lot of options available to both of our runners at this point. We do see Zilch entering the Val fight, the last of the fights on Ordeal, so I think we'll see decisions coming up shortly as to which of those checks they want to be making at this point in time.
Absolutely. I think it's kind of to your point here, mentioning all those checks, is we're kind of in a situation where no check is necessarily better than the other. Twin Heart's a way out of the way. It's the easiest thing on the table. Dwarf Castle is kind of in a good location. It's a free character check, but that first boss can be difficult if you're not set up for it right. Luca Key, most difficult boss out of those available outside of the Fey March, but it's required at some point, and you probably want to get that out of the way as soon as you feel capable of. So I think it's going to come down to how strong do both of our runners feel, and them going to like the appropriate check for that power level right now.
We do see Gemini having a bit of difficulty with the infamous inventory boss, but now has also turned in their pan and also has an objective on the board. So is doing a bit of selling in Fabul before they elect to leave, which is perfectly understandable under the circumstances. Zilch is descending Mount Ordeal, so we will see in just a few moments where each of our runners is going from here.
Yeah, I've noticed both of our runners having trouble with that inventory today. I know Zilch capped it out once as well. I think it's just that problem where you get all the really good loot. You're not dropping any of it off along the way. You want to keep it all. You're just still looting at this point for the sake of looting, honestly. Zilch is going to turn in this Adamant Rock, though.
Very interesting. I was speculating that Zilch might not choose to do this, but it's proving me wrong once again. Beyond dart usage, the X-Skull isn't strictly necessary until we find a Cecil, and even so, we already have another X-Skull from looting Castle Evelyn. Gemini is choosing to turn in the Twin Harp.
This could be a play to see what is in this Cocal shop, and it's kind of one of those ongoing themes of this tournament is when you have a high completion percentage, what items you get early on to sort of increase your pace through everything matters a lot. There could be something in this shop that makes it a lot quicker. That Mira is one of them. That Crystal Ring, one of them. Zeus Gauntlets, definitely one of them. That's a really loaded Cocal shop.
And under the circumstances, even the Artemis spell, we've already found one of those.
Yeah, if we hadn't already found one, that would be, the perfect shop for this particular party setup right now, basically. And maybe you could have a Masa instead of a Mira, but that's kind of pushing your luck a little bit here. Very good pickup. And also gonna have that Excalibur if he finishes turning this in, which means that he will have that Excalibur to dart and Excalibur to keep, just in case he finds a Cecil later. If he wants to go to Dwarf Castle, pitch that Excalibur at the first boss, that's going to get you to that check a lot easier. Same with possibly getting through the Luca Cave.
Yeah, and it is certainly possible that somewhere along the way we'll find a Cecil and we'll find a Crystal Sword to go for that Cecil, in which case both of those Excaliburs become darts at some point, most likely. Okay, it looks like Gemini has reached the point where in just a few moments we will be seeing a performance by the one, the only DJ Spooning B. So out of respect for our performing musician, here is a song for all of our wonderful viewers to enjoy. Stay tuned, we'll be on in just a moment.
Just got done with a playthrough of Earthbound, and I always love the music from it so much, so hearing it again there is always great. Gets through that ant line very easily, though.
Yeah, it's a beautiful game with beautiful music. That is a pass in Cave Magnes today. Possibly not the key item you're looking for here, but it's certainly a very nice find. In the meanwhile, Zilch has found DJ Mylan's Electric Dance Party as the first loss in Dwarf Castle, and after plowing through that, finds the long sought out Cecil to take on Elements.
That is an incredibly good pickup for Zilch. However, I have seen GeminiHero, in his win yesterday, beating a Cecil that was fully stacked, so don't count him out just because Zilch has that advantage for right now.
Yeah, we can see just how powerful even a brand new level 1, newly minted Paladin Cecil is. With basically one swing from that Excalibur, takes out Elements. With a little bit of help from the rest of the party, of course. So, finding Cecil at this point is going to make a significant power difference.
Absolutely, but it does look like GeminiHero is going to be heading right into that Dwarf Castle, so the difference between getting these Cecils is going to be like a couple minutes at most, and effectively the same place. So it won't really tilt things in Zilch's favor at this point.
Yeah, it could well be that the time spent going out to Cave Magnes to pick up that pass will be made up much later in the seed, when Zilch needs to do the Lunar Walk, if he never elects to check Cave Magnes.
Yeah, pass is that sort of tricky, not quite a key item, not quite a regular item situation where it can really change how you route a seed. And at this point in time, GeminiHero is going to be a bit more tempted to go up and clear that moon. And hey, was that an adamant armor I just saw?
No, but it is exchangeable for an adamant armor. That is the hook from Dwarf Castle. We already have a pink tail in hand. But interestingly enough, Zilch looked as though they were going to head into Seal Cave before realizing, hey, I have a pink tail, and I believe we are going to see Zilch now turn in that pink tail, pick up the first adamant armor of the seed.
Definitely a good choice. I think at this point in time, you definitely drop everything and go and get that adamant armor. There's some cases to be made at later parts in the seed for not doing that, but right now is the point in time where that's going to make the biggest difference, and both of our runners having an Adamant Excal Cecil online is really going to open this up to who executes quicker and who makes the right choices when we inevitably go to the moon.
Yeah, with an Adamant Excal Cecil in hand, you're going to be able to take on the Sealed Cave boss fairly easily as long as it's not something too nasty. You can probably take a good swing at both of the Fey March bosses at this point.
Absolutely, and the question to me is, does Zilch do Cave Magnus while he's here? And it looks like he's going to. So we'll see where our runners are relative to each other very, very soon.
This is very interesting. We're seeing very parallel play, not always in the same place at the same time, but both of our runners are making many of the same checks. So it could well be that the winner here is decided purely on how well they execute.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those seeds that wants to do that to you. Sometimes you get the Magma Key and the Darkness Crystal as your first two key items, and you have to decide where to go. Sometimes the seed kind of leads you around on where to go next. Like, all right, here's your Luca Key. Figure out how to chase this Luca Key as soon as possible. All right, here's a Twin Heart if you want something easy to do, but it's not going to lead you anywhere. You're still going to need to go check that Luca Key. So it's really interesting to see. Is there a point where this seed opens up, or is this just the long chain of doom and then all of your terminal key items are stacked up on the moon?
Yeah, well, I don't think there's been a particular point in the seed other than possibly just before heading down to the underground where we've seen less than 2 or 3 checks available to our runners at any given point in time. So it's not wide open yet by any means, but it certainly hasn't been the most constrained seed.
Yeah, definitely. It's just one of those ones where it's not immediately, like, really restrictive. But when you think about where our runner's power has been, early on, you don't necessarily want to go straight to Baron in because you just might not have the health to get through if you get punched down too quickly at that second spot. So it's kind of one of those things where if either of our runners had felt like they could take a risk to take some of those more difficult checks, it might have paid off very, very big dividends there.
Yeah, well, I think we're at a point now with especially with Cecil in hand, where that's not going to be as much of an impact on deciding where to go next. The move isn't open to us quite yet because we don't have the Darkness Crystal in hand, and basically all of the checks that are available right now are quite doable with all of our runners. Speaking of checks, Zilch is now in the heart of Cave Magnes, and we're about to see an encore performance from DJ Spoony D. So please hold your applause until the end. Stay tuned. Okay, we have sent Outline back to the moon where it belongs, and Zilch will in just a moment or two pick up a pass of his own. GeminiHero now also has the hook in hand, and I believe we are going to see Gemini also immediately go and turn in the Pinktail for adamant armor.
Almost certainly at this point, and possibly get that Excalibur as well, considering he does not have that Excalibur available to him quite yet, although it does look like he's going to pop that defense sword on for right now. Might be tempted to try and skip it, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to be the correct choice here. We'll see if he's just doing that temporarily while he's in this menu and then going to head right on over.
Well, Gemini does have both the Adamant and the Legend Sword right now. I may not realize it, but could go pick up an Excal for that Cecil if he wanted to right now. Looks like he's electing to turn into Pinktail first. Perhaps not realizing that he has the components to forge.
This could also indicate to me that he wants to go down to the sealed cave next, because Kokel's shop is basically not quite adjacent to, but right next to the sealed cave, more or less. And so why fly down there, fly back, when instead you can fly up here, fly back, and save a little bit of travel time.
True. That is the Adamant in hand. Zilch is now heading back to Baron.
Yeah, Zilch never did this Baron in check, I don't think. Never got that for him. Has to get through these two fights. I think GeminiHero might be in a little bit of a lead right now, just on the basis of that, because he does not have checks that Zilch has not done yet.
True. Gemini stopping in Silvera on the way out from turning into Pinktail and picking up the Adamant. Nothing of particular interest in that shop other than maybe the Star Veils.
I'd be tempted to pick up a few extra Star Veils, although some of the bosses that you kind of need / want the Star Veil for become not as much of a threat once you have that Adamant armor. Like Golbez, for example, you're not going to lose an Adamant armor character to a Golbez, and you're probably not going to be dealing with too much from that elemental damage either. Really only have to worry about his viruses, so those Star Veils kind of lose a little bit of priority, but still always worth picking some.
Well, even an Adamant armor character is going to have a problem dealing with a Wyvern in most spots, so it's understandable that you want to have a few Star Veils in reserve for that.
Definitely.
Alright, Gemini now leaving Silvera. And I believe we're going to see Gemini headed back underground in just a few moments.
Yep, the question in my mind... Oh, no, it looks like he's going to go back to these Eblin Castle shops, maybe hoping to spike a crystal sword. We know that he won't find it in these chests, but in his mind might be thinking, all right, I can find something better for that Excalibur here. There's a pretty good chance.
Yeah, we do know that Gemini, electing to check the trap chest, is going to find an Excal in one of them. I wonder if we'll see Gemini take the Excal and leave. I don't think we'll see that. I think Gemini will probably be keen to take all of the rest of the chests, looking for that crystal sword or maybe another adamant armor. We, of course, already know neither of those are here today. Zilch, meanwhile, is headed down into Sealed Cave.
Now, here's the thing about the Sealed Cave that might have been giving our runners a bit more hesitancy towards going down as well, is you can't use exit to get out of the Sealed Cave. You have to use work to get out of the Sealed Cave when you're going out. So our runners are going to have to run the entire length of the Sealed Cave as well once they get out of here. So this is going to be actually quite a time sink to do this right now. Even though it's one of the only options we have left, it's really here, top of tower, or Feymarch bosses, and that's it.
Yeah, like we haven't seen anyone who's even capable of casting warp at this point in time. So, and I don't think that this is a party that is necessarily going to want to take up Black Mage at this point in the scene, especially not with all of the equipment that we found. So, it's understandable that you wouldn't want to wait to do this. To some extent, it just means that you've got the time sink on the way back out.
Absolutely. No, this is Rosa and their Berserkers all the way through. Maybe later you consider trading someone out for an anchor. Maybe if you find a Fu, if you have that curse string in your Zilch, you decide, you know what, I'll throw that on. But it looks like he's going to curse Tane instead to get the agility set up here for this Luca Cave spot.
This Sealed Cave boss is one of, if not the fastest agility spots in this game. You're going to have a tremendously difficult time with certain bosses in this spot if you don't have an agility set up. And that is a Ninja Star. It is a required spot, so they're going to have to be satisfied with that, but not what you're hoping to find here either.
So here's the question, is you've exhausted everything else. Do you go up Keyless Tower, or do you try and take D-Lunars and Mom Bomb down in the Feymarch? I would be very tempted by Keyless Tower at this point.
I mean, at this point, I have an Adamant Excal Cecil in hand. Those D-Lunars are not going to pose much of a threat at this point.
You know, that's a very good point, too. I think the big question is really that Mom Bomb. Do you feel comfortable getting through that Mom Bomb spot, or would you rather wait until you can try and get both of those at the same time so you don't have to see the Feymarch again?
Zilch has found the dolls in the Sealed Cave boss. This is... Assuming you can get through all the dolls in a reasonable amount of time, this is... there's certainly worse fights you could be taking here.
I don't think we have anything to stop those back dolls, so there is a chance that we see big dolls here, depending on how these Berserkers actually, put out their damage. But big doll won't necessarily be a problem right now. There's the front dolls down. We got to get those back ones down beforehand, and I think we might be good.
I think we have just enough speed and just enough damage output to prevent us from seeing big doll. There's the last doll. No big doll today on Zilch's side.
And most importantly, you get the shiny new Ninja Star that you can throw at something too. What a prize.
Yeah, conveniently enough, an edge to throw that Ninja Star is already with us. But that is another objective on the board for Zilch, completing the Sealed Cave, and now we get to see the long walk back out.
The thing is, GeminiHero has spent a long time here in this Eblin Castle. Basically, the entire length of time that Zilch has spent in this Sealed Cave, he's been looting and hasn't really found a lot to show for it outside of skipping Forge. Probably going to be following in Zilch's footsteps and going down this Sealed Cave next. He needs to get something that helps him pick up a little bit more time than what he's found so far, although maybe looking like he's gonna do a little bit of grinding. No, a bit indecisive at the moment. You know what? He doesn't have the curse ring. He might be thinking, I don't have the agility for Sealed Cave. I should go somewhere else.
It looked for a moment like we were going to see a Helis Tower play, but no, Gemini is in fact heading to Sealed Cave, just as Zilch is leaving Sealed Cave. So, with Feymarsh or Helis Tower available to us, where does Zilch go next? Zilch apparently chooses to go shopping first.
Silk Web's not tempting enough for him. He already has the one, I think. I thought he'd checked this shop before. Might have been misremembering what was there. Might be looking for something in particular. I'm not sure what, though. It looks like he's going down to Feymarch, though.
Yeah. Knowing what's there already, and knowing in particular the D-looters are there, I think this is the more sensible play. It could well be that we find the tower key behind these D-looters. I will be interested to see if Zilch makes an attempt on Bomb while down here as well, because traversing up and down into the Feymarch does take up quite a bit of time. A lot of runners will want to try to minimize the number of ships they take down here.
Yeah, you never want to do the triple dip Feymarch if you can avoid it, but triple dip Feymarch might be a bit faster than double dip tower in the end, so might end up paying off depending on what the key item is here.
Yeah, looking to do some inventory cleanup. There's the Bacchus. That is a very nice find.
We'll see how much, just getting a bunch of wine and having a party is going to work out for Zilch here and getting through this. He's pretty well set. Gemini's pretty well set. The question is, with that lack of anchoring, how quickly are these dolls going to punch over on Gemini's side? And does he risk seeing Big Doll just from them getting their turns faster?
That is a heads-up play using the Silk Web on the dolls.
Yeah, I don't think he found the Hourglass 2 that Zilch found in the Dwarf Castle item shop pot check. So not going to be able to stop them. It looks like Zilch is going to go for the Mom Bomb first.
That's very interesting.
Well, he does have those illusions he bought at the start of the seed. Just needs to get Blinks up, get everyone Bacchus here, and this Mom Bomb probably doesn't pose a threat. Might be able to get enough damage out before this actually, goes on, in order to not have to worry about Mom Bomb at all.
We're seeing the wine coming out immediately, which is completely understandable. We see a Blink cast go up on Rosa. Not using the illusions, interestingly enough.
Definitely, and as our free streamer Xeno kept pointing out, having everyone in low health too does mean that Cecil is going to just, cover every single... Well, I guess not roll Berserk, but we're not in great danger here. Cecil should be fine as long as the bombs don't explode.
Although, ideally, you do want more than just Cecil to pick up the experience from this fight.
Definitely not with Sirens not on the table, and definitely not in a situation where we don't have much to enable one of the good giant grinds. I don't think we found any giant slaying abilities or equipment in order to take down Mach Giants easily, and we definitely don't have access to weak right now. So where you get this experience is kind of at a premium at the moment.
And that is Mom Bomb being defeated even before reaching the explosion stage. So that party is putting out quite a bit of damage right now. That is the Darkness Crystal, speaking of giant access.
That is interesting. Not going to take the D-Lunar spike. Going to just drop out from here. And meanwhile, GeminiHero is through that sealed cave fight. Going to be able to get out now and not have to worry from here on.
I'm reasonably sure that Zilch is going to turn in that Darkness Crystal immediately.
When your options are Keyless Tower and a D-Lunar that you just ran away from, I think he's probably thinking, I don't have many good options at the moment. I might as well just see what this character is. Maybe I spike a Fu or something and make everything even easier.
I am curious why you wouldn't take the D-Lunars while you were down there anyway.
D-Lunars can be tricky. D-Lunars do percentage damage. They can cause problems if you don't get them down quickly enough. and they're going to be bouncing those viruses as well with after you start physically attacking them, which is always a little bit of a problem because Adamant Armor does not offer quite as much protection against virus as it does everything else, because virus is not an elemental spell. Adamant Armor has the elemental resist, so they can actually be a little bit tricky, just depending on how that plays out for you.
Well, I mean, my thinking here is that Cecil alone is going to put out enough damage to deal with them before they can really start bringing out the nasty spells.
Probably. But there are reasons why you wouldn't want to take the fight, too.
Yeah. Zilch, now on the way up to the moon, appears to be going directly to Cave Bahamut. Not even bothering with the character check first.
I mean, might as well do your objectives while you're here. It's a good way of getting through it.
I will be interested to see, firstly, what happens here with who's the boss in Cave Bahamut. Are you going to be able to take on this boss at this point in time? Fairly easily, I would say, with the party setup we've got going on right now. Secondly, does Zilch do anything else on the moon after completing the objective?
Oh, that's a real good question, because I would be tempted, if I had a moon setup all ready to go, to just full clear this moon while I'm here, get all the experience I need for the rest of the seed, check all those key items. We still need a Baron Key, we still need an Earth Crystal, we still need a Rat Tail. We're in good shape to get all of those from the moon. I would be really tempted to not take that cutscene again.
Yeah, the as I like to call it, the moon grind often proves to be the only experience you'll need.
Yeah, definitely. This is not a seed where at this point in time, where we are exactly, we're gonna miss not having sirens, because we still have the giant 2, which is just a giant chunk of XP.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Gemini is in Cave Evelyn, doing some more looting while he's here. Like, I would expect this at this point in time to mainly be a character check, and checking the shops on the way through, of course.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a certain temptation on Gemini's side to say, I'm not entirely sure how comfortable I feel going on further. At the moment, I might as well try and get more power in other ways. Finding a better utility character would definitely help. That Forum on Gemini's side is kind of running out for usefulness. At the moment, I believe he still has that Forum in his party. I might be misremembering.
Yeah, and we find Rubicon in Cave Value today.
You know, glare hurts.
Glare doesn't always hurt, but glare is certainly going to hurt here.
Glare, very good spell. Let's get glare added to this spell list at some point in time. Then we'll see what's going on. There's a Tella over on Gemini's side. He might be tempted to go for it.
If nothing else, Tella would make an excellent anchor at this point in time. If you're even vaguely considering the D-Machine grind, Tella is also a good pickup. But at this point in the seed, Gemini not having found that Darkness Crystal yet, I think that's unlikely to be crossing his mind.
Yeah, I think if you're checking characters at this point and you're in Gemini's position, you're looking for exactly Fu, and we just kind of we have Fu at home. Here's Fu at home. It's just Tella, which is not going to be the best thing there.
Although, interestingly enough, Gemini is electing to take Tella instead of Kane.
You know, that's fine. We've got a really stacked edge. We've got a really good Cecil. We've got another Adamant Armor from Cave Bahamut.
Effectively a free Adamant Armor, seeing as you need to go through here in order to complete the scene. So that is 2 Adamant Armors on Zilch's side at the moment. The second one goes on Edge immediately.
So to answer your question, yeah, you full cleared the moon now.
Yeah, this is certainly a party which is in a position to full clear the rest of the moon at this point, and we do see Zilch electing to stay on the moon, so I think that is what we are going to see here.
Yep, we'll see who this character check is here, but I don't think in Zilch's case that he's going to consider anyone. I don't think even if you find a foo here and you're in Zilch's position that you take that foo right now.
Yeah, this is a party composition which is going to get you through all the way to the end of the seed, up to and including the final fight. And I believe we've found all of the equipment and all of the items that we would need in order to get us that far.
Absolutely. Like, if you absolutely have to and you can't really leverage that curse string for anything, you can either dump off a character and grab one of the anchors that you have available to you, still sitting in that Tower of Wishes, or you can grab that Sid, use that as an anchor if you want, or you could just fast anchor with that edge and see the fun of Zeromus when you're going really, really fast, and so is he, and just go from there.
Yeah, not taking the Sid as you would expect. And Zilch is indeed electing to go down into the moon.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been tempted to take the Sid, but sometimes I do just make my character choice on the basis of how good their facial hair structure is, and Sid's a solid second in that case.
Okay, Zilch electing to do that into the Morisame Paradigm altar first, electing to clear the moon top down. That is, of course, assuming that we are, as we expect, going to see Zilch clear the rest of the moon at this point.
I kind of think you got to, if you're in Zilch's position. If you're going ahead and diving the moon, you can't really bail at any point. You kind of got to commit to it. There's a free fight in that guard's fight. There's a coffin coming out. Not going to life glitch. I think I would have been tempted to just do that to grab a little bit of bonus XP, but going to just ride this out from here.
Well, it is tempting, but we are going to see plenty of XP from the rest of the moon fights at this point.
Looks like Gemini is taking the Steel Lunar's fight, and it looks like he's setting up for frog strats. Here come the walls. Those might be a bit early. I'd be a bit worried about those running out before the frog actually goes off.
Interestingly enough, is electing not to hit things with Cecil here.
Yeah, if you're going for those frog strats, you don't want to hit anything, because that will immediately trigger their script to cast walls on themselves and just start flinging viruses instead of getting to it, so... Not often you get a chance to see Prey on Rosa. There is the wall running out already. That is a bit of a problem. Or no, wait, that was a Cure 2 potion. Never mind.
Yes, that was a potion.
It's like casting Cure 2 with Cecil. That's a rarity. Uh-oh, it hit.
I think we're at one more turn. That's Tala taking a nap. There's the breath going off. Hits one of the D-Lunars.
One is fine. One is still a full-on lock on this fight. You don't have to worry about anything else. You just hit that frog. The other one casts, tries to start casting virus at some point in time usually, and that whole thing is over. Or does it hit the one that's not a frog? I can never remember, because I haven't done Lunar Frog strats in forever, and every time I see it on Restream recently, it's hit both of them. It is hit the frog. Okay, thank you.
It is hit the frog. Zilch has cleared the Mursami altar, cleared the guards out, and does not have a key item to show for it.
Doesn't have a key item to show for it. It has a nice, hefty little chunk of experience and the knowledge that he doesn't have to worry about an item there. I'm a bit wondering where the rest of the seed is at this point, because we've got like a good solid chunk of it walled off somewhere. It could be behind the Steel Lunar fight. If this Steel Lunar fight drops something really, really good, we're in good shape.
Statistically, I would expect that the value here is going to be at the bottom of the moon, just due to the density of checks down there. But it still could be that this Steel Lunar fight is required, which, with any luck, we'll find out in just a few moments whether or not it is.
I think the danger here is, if this D-Lunar fight is something that we need, that Zilch last locations it, because he already did the Mom Bomb and he's only getting the value of one boss once he goes back down. That is the big question. Because I think GeminiHero will eventually go to the moon of his own accord and will eventually get it. The big question to me is just, where is everything else?
Well, we do have the required Cape Bahamut. Gemini is going to be going up to the moon at some point, whether he wants to or not.
Absolutely, and I think he'll be tempted to stay there once he has that second adamant armor in hand as well.
And Zilch now entering the ribbon room, the dual key item check, and finds Ashura as the boss. Gemini is through the dealer's fight. That is the package. That is not the progression we are looking for.
That is effectively nothing. That is a number that increments you +1 towards having 10 key items, and that's it. And actually, that is the 10th key item on Gemini's side. That's all it's going to be good for. I don't think you sit through that scene even for a food at this point.
Yeah, while the package gets you a character, you need to sit through several cutscenes and a boss fight in order to actually pick up that character. And with this party at this point, you're not going to do that.
Absolutely. No one likes when you walk into Mist and you get that little pop-up that says, when you walk a step further, several cutscenes will play in sequence. Please make sure you put enough time aside to watch them in their entirety. Everyone wants to just keep going around that.
Okay, it looks like Zilch, having the Rosa on hand to cast copious amounts of Blink, it has the Ashura fight well in hand at this point.
Yeah, Ashura is just one of those bosses that's not going to pose much of a threat anywhere you find her, as long as you have access to the right things, and we more than have access to the right things right now.
And Gemini is now taking on Mom Bomb. Not quite the last location that's available to him right now, but this is going to be the Darkness Crystal. So I presume that once Gemini is through this fight, we are going to see a quick trip up to the moon as well.
Absolutely, although he could surprise us and try and do Keyless Tower, it wouldn't necessarily be the worst play to do so. We know that the likely outcome is that there's something good on this moon. Unfortunately, going to have to reset out this Bomb fight here.
You can see Ashura hits Adamant Edge for 1 damage. Adamant Back Row Edge for 1 damage. Hits that cane for a little bit more, but we can see Ashura is not being much of a threat here, and in fact is now down. I think that's a cool 200,000 experience for this party. Now, do these key items hold any value for us? No, they do not. That is a crystal shield and another white shirt.
Wow, that was worth nothing except for, again, that big chunk of experience. An extra 500 max HP on Kane ain't bad, so...
Yeah, the real key item was the experience we found along the way.
To answer a question from chat real quickly, the Darkness Crystal is from this Mom Bomb fight that GeminiHero is in right now.
Zilch, at the White Spear Altar, finds the Magus Sisters.
Better here than another floor down in that first Masamune altar spot where they can be one of the absolute worst things to find. This is a pretty good place to find.
Yeah, like especially if those tier 2 spells are hitting the Adamant Warriors here, which is a 50% chance at this point, they're not going to be doing very much damage. That virus might be a little bit more painful.
You know, it'd be really helpful right now is if we had that Rune Axe on that cane, which I don't think we do at the moment. That would be doing absolute work right now on all of these bosses. We found Asura, we found Magus Sisters, every mage is on the moon today.
The moon is magical today. It looks like we are going to see everyone hit hard enough before virus even comes out here. Even Rosa is joining in on the action here.
I mean, you might as well. Just berserk everyone. It'll be fine. Although I don't think Rose is actually berserked, but still. Yeah, there goes Cindy. Magus Sister's not posing any problem here. We'll see what's at this White Spear Altar. Meanwhile, Gemini doing pretty well. Pretty stable now on this Mom Bomb fight.
And that's the rat tail. There's some of the value we're looking for on the moon.
That's 1 of 3 key items that we need. So it is technically possible that everything we need is on this moon, depending on what's at that Masamune altar and what's at that Crystal Sword altar that Zilch skipped on the way down.
We're looking for a Baron Key and an Earth Crystal right now to get the last 2 objectives. We have 2 checks remaining on the moon on Zilch's side right now. So we shall see if Zilch finds the remaining key items here, or we'll need to progress even further once they're back on the blue planet.
Yeah, and I think we'll see it take a little while before we see that. Oh, there's a free fight. Good old Keblin and Queblin just sitting here at the bottom of the moon in this living room.
Yeah, if you want to find a free fight anywhere, this is certainly fairly high on the list of where you want to find a free fight.
Definitely. And started to go back what I was about to say before that they popped up. I think it's going to be a while before we see what that rat tail pays off and what anything else we get from the moon pays off, because I'm pretty sure that Zilch will probably do the giant on the way back down, so we'll have to get through that first.
Yeah, there are some cases in which having at least 2 of the 3 key items in hand where you would bail on any remaining checks here, but I don't think this is a case where we're going to see that. You've already cleared out most of the rest of the moon at this point. You're going to want to stay up here until those remaining checks are done.
Yeah, definitely, especially with only that crystal sword altar. It's so far down in the moon, you really kind of got to go for it while you're down here.
We also have Giant as an objective today. With the experience from having full cleared the moon in hand, most runners are... That is a Bahamut orb. So there's at least one of our important key items not on the moon today. Very interesting. As I was saying, since Giant is a required check, by going to the Giant directly from the moon, you actually save a little bit of cutscene time. So, especially if you've got Giant as an objective, you are going to want to head directly there after finishing any business you have on the moon. And I expect that once Zilch has returned to the Crystal Sword altar, which he's doing right now, to make the final check on the moon, that is where we are going to see him go next.
Definitely.
In the meantime, Gemini is just now arriving on the moon and appears to be willing to head into the subterranean immediately rather than going for a cave value first.
You know, if you're looking for that many key items and you're pretty sure you're going to full clear the moon anyways, I can see a reason why you would consider that. And I would also say that if you're in Gemini's shoes where you have that Tella, you're really tempted by that character check. You want to find a food to replace that Tella at some point. But not forthcoming with that Sid here. Meanwhile, Zilch has found a CPU here at the Crystal Sword Altar, which I think is a pretty good place for it.
There's certainly worse places you can find the CPU, and as is somewhat traditional at this point, Edge is about to dart the spoon at CPU.
That will take out about half of its health. It's only got about 20.8k here at this point, so not really a big deal. If we can cut this fight in half, you cut this fight in half.
And we do see Gemini, again defying my expectations, having done the character check, is now looking to see who the boss in Cave Bahamut is. Looks to be preparing to grind a little bit while he's down here.
This is interesting. He has those hourglasses, I believe, were in the Hemingway shop, I think. So a good place to get a little bit of XP. He's not feeling great about his prospects. Might as well get that little bit of safety and just get those levels so you can sail through. And hey, how would you like another Excalibur?
Not very much, apparently. To answer a couple of questions in chat, we have not seen Kenatsu, we have not seen Valdez. So both of those are candidates for giant bosses at the moment. We have seen elements, however, which may explain why we think that Turtle has been sighted.
Very tempted to hop up from my seat really quickly and go put some popcorn in the microwave, because this could be some real good giant fights that we got going on here.
We do see Zilch, as called, is now, having finished all of the moon checks, is now headed to the giant. So it'll only be a minute or two before we find out who our giant bosses are today.
There's a lot of really spicy options. I'm excited, but there's also non-spicy options. We still haven't seen Officer Soldier. We still haven't seen Octomam, who can be a little bit rough the first few turns and then basically slows down to nothing and no longer becomes a threat. There's a lot of things that it could be here that aren't terrible. You know what I'm hoping to see that hasn't been mentioned? Demist at Elements.
D-Mist is certainly a fight in that spot.
D-Mist, the famous anti-berserker boss in the video game Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, where you can't just cast berserk on everyone, you have to actually go through all those turns. I like that sort of thing. It kind of slows down things, and that's when you decide how much is everything that I have left worth to me, because I want to throw it all at this boss right now.
Well, I mean, you can certainly attempt to berserk against D-Mist elements, but that's a Lunar Sparkle. And as you might recall, who are the only Lunar Sparkles we haven't found yet?
Ogopogo and Wyvern? I am hoping for Wyvern.
Oh my.
Hey.
Wyvern at Elements.
Now, the fun thing about this spot is that this is not going to kill Wyvern, not even close. This spot has, I believe, the most HP in the entire game.
65,000 hit points.
Outside of that Zeromus spot, but that Zeromus spot's cheating. It doesn't count.
Really, a lot of the time, the problem here isn't dealing with that HP pool on Wyvern's part. It's dealing with the correct agility setup in order to get survive the opening Mega Nuke. At least that's certainly what I've seen most people who find Wyvern here have problems with.
And that is a big question of, who do you feel has the better anchor setup here? A fairly well-leveled Rosa who has a curse ring on, or a Tella who's not cursed? Probably the Rosa, but not by a huge amount here.
We do see Zilch getting several Star Veils and a Silk Web off prior to that opening Mega Nuke. Okay, several is 2 apparently. I thought I saw 3, but it's just 2.
Might have queued up. Nope, still in the inventory. I was about to say, might have queued up the 3rd one and not have it go off at this point.
If I'm not mistaken, Zilch elected to use the Silk Web instead of a 3rd Star Veil.
That is a fair point. I'm not sure that Silk Web went off, though, is the thing. It's going to be difficult to see how long this fight takes, because this is going to be a painful experience no matter what. That Wyvern is just going to still stand there menacingly for a while, but once he actually starts firing up to do damage, it's not going to be a fun time.
We're seeing enough damage output here that we might not even reach that point, or if we do, it might only affect one of our characters. If it hits Cecil or Edge with this setup, that will be a problem, just because you'll be missing out on that damage output while you're recovering from that. But even Kane is hitting for over 1,000 in this slot.
Yeah, it turns out 2 Adamant Armors on your party is pretty good when you get to one of the more difficult bosses like this.
And I suspect that even if the nuke does come out and it does hit Cecil or it does hit Edge, that... and speaking of letting the nuke hit Edge, that it's not going to do very much damage.
I was expecting it to at least hit 4 digits. That's almost a shame.
Yeah, chat points out that the Silk Web did go off before the Omega Nuke did.
That would explain why this Wyvern feels like he's moving very, very slow here, but yeah, this is not a difficult fight anymore. It's just long and tedious.
Yeah, we're through the danger part of the fight now. And speaking of through the danger, that is the end of Wyvern Elements.
So here's the big question. What is hiding at CPU? Are we going to have a free giant today, or are we going to have a bad giant today?
Alright, Gemini is just about through this Rubicante in Cave Bahamut fight. And will presumably soon be falling down into the rest of the moon.
Zilch does pass, as was sort of mentioned in chat, as the most difficult boss of all, and when you get through a Wyvern at the giant, which is turning the battle speed back to 1 before you run into the next boss, something which I always forget to do.
Turtle!
I love turtles. Look at him, he's adorable. He's so happy to be here at this CPU spot. Honestly, he should be.
It's better that better for our runners at least that he's here rather than in the element spot immediately before that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think this turtle's gonna pose too much of a problem. I think we'll survive the first wave, especially with how much damage is going off at this point, and you can just leave him on wave form at this point.
Yeah, Kinatsu's waves are proportional to the amount of health that Kinatsu has. So if you're sitting in the spot with 65,000 health, those waves are extremely painful, and you need to come up with a good strategy to avoid dealing with them. Here, there's considerably less health, considerably less damage. This party is in a position where he's not a threat.
Absolutely. Zilch through the giant, meaning he's going to be back on the blue planet as GeminiHero starts his subterranean dive. Here's the big question. What's behind that rat tail? Where's that Baron key? Where's that tower key? Where's that earth crystal? There's only 2 options left.
Hello, Rydia. I expect that Zilch is well past the point where taking Rydia is an option, but I suspect what we're going to see is an immediate rat tail turn in. That will presumably give progression of some sort, because if not, the only other option right now is keyless tower. I think what we would be hoping to see here is that the tower key is behind rat tail.
I think you might be hoping for that. You might be hoping for either of the... I would be hoping for Baron Key, because that's going to open up 2 different paths there. And, sort of take away the pressure of that tower. But what I'm really hoping to see is Rat Tail into Sand Ruby, and Keyless Tower was the path all along.
Well, in just a few moments, we'll find out what's behind Rat Tail. Will it be the Tower Key? Will it be the Baron Key? Will it be the Earth Crystal, which is the other required item we're looking for right now? Or will it just be a Sand Ruby?
We still have one more, actually I think 2 more non-Sand Ruby Zonks in the pool at this point, because that's where the items have to end, so to speak, and that is the Baron Key, so that's another objective ready to go for you.
And 2 key item checks behind that same objective. Baron Castle, we have 2 boss fights to complete the objective. We have the third... sorry, that's the wrong objective I'm thinking of. The actual objective is the one that's in the basement, the third boss fight. The one on the basement throne.
I think if you're in Zilch's shoes, you run through, you say hello to first boss, whose name I forget. I have not played won the memory game today. And then head straight over to that Odin throne and just do it immediately. Don't even go to the regular throne until you have done that. And if it's the Earth Crystal, enjoy your fun walk backwards through the sewers of Baron, one of the most disorienting places to walk back through, but still quicker than going through that fight.
Yeah, if you know where you're going through the Baron sewers, it is slightly faster to leave via the sewers rather than take on that boss fight, assuming that it is a relatively fast boss fight. Yeah. Depending on what we find here, I do think that there's still the chance that what we find here is not the Earth Crystal, and that we will see them complete the remaining check here as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think you only don't bother completing the throne if it's exactly Earth Crystal here. If it's anything else, you just go ahead, do the throne, you're right here.
Okay, those are the Dark Imps, which may explain why we forgot about them. This fight is... This fight is extremely free at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of weird thinking about it, that forgetting the Dark Imps, that red robe is definitely the most striking of the colors there.
And the Dark Imps are not the only red boss in this seed. Someday you will see.
Exactly.
And as we expect, Zilch is electing to immediately head down to the objective, the basement throne, the Odin spot.
I don't think there is anything possibly left in the boss pool that can really pose a threat at any spot that we have yet to check on Zilch's side, so it's really just a matter of how quickly can he run down these objectives. Meanwhile, I don't want to ignore what's going on over on GeminiHero's side. Had a little bit of a rough patch in that sort of mid-game, but has sort of righted the ship and is ready to just go full out at this point, clearing this moon, making pretty good pace in doing so.
Yeah. This is the Ashura fight.
Yeah, so we're most of the way through the Moon and Gemini side of this fight. Speaking of free bosses, here's the Kaiko guards in Basement Throne. With this party in this spot, there's not much here that could pose less of a threat than these soldiers do.
Yeah, you know, they're just down here on their break, enjoying a little bit of, you know, free time to themselves where they can just relax, and you come down here and interrupt their break room, which used to be a throne room, but, you know, it got converted union stuff. Definitely a good win for them in that last contract negotiation. But through this fight already, ready to go.
All right, what is our key item here today? Do we see the Earth Crystal? That is a sand ruby. So we are going to see the remaining check in Baron Castle while we're here.
Definitely, and if that's not it, if that is the other Zonk that we know is left in this seed at this point, then we're going to Keyless Tower, which held the goods all along.
Well, if this is a Zonk, then necessarily top of tower is the vanilla tower key.
It could be Earth Crystal into Tower Key as well.
That's also possible, yes. But there is a chance that it's the vanilla tower key. Anyway, our ruler of Baron today is a wall, somehow.
Yeah, not very threatening. Really the only thing that could have been annoying to find here would have been that Golbez, just because he's slow, and even then it's not too bad because we have 2 adamant armors. Once you have 1 adamant armor, Golbez is you're kind of laughing with him as opposed to having him laugh at you, and once you have 2, it's kind of, the tables kind of turn there.
Yep. The joke's on you for once, Golbez. Unfortunately, it is a little late for Black Mages in this seed. So goodbye, Pelham.
I mean, if you want to go back up to the Giant, you know, and maybe do a Mac Giant grind if you find an Ogre Axe somewhere, then you can take that Pelham if you wanted.
I mean, yes, but why would you?
You wouldn't, but
exactly.
You could. That was Asura, and I can't quite make out what that other sprite was. I love that Easter egg.
It was someone's back. I did not quite see who it was either.
Helmetless
K. And that is a moon veil. That means that, as I'm sure Trackle will be happy to hear, that Keyless Tower is the play all along.
Our runners have spent the last, 45 minutes doing everything except this Keyless Tower, and this is what's left. If this is actually Vanilla Tower Key, that is a full 100% clear of the seed for almost certainly both of our runners when we get there.
Would you feel behind for fading this? That's an interesting question. I personally don't think I would find myself doing Keyless Tower unless the other option looked even less palatable.
No, I don't feel behind for fading this necessarily, because I think that if I faded this and my opponent didn't, that they would have won the race by now. Or at least, you know, we'll be fairly close to it. So it's one of those things where maybe not, because you kind of expect that if you, faded this long, that your opponent either faded it too or they've already won, and the pressure's kind of off at that point in most ways.
And there is our last remaining Lunar Sparkle, Ogo Pogo.
Well, it might have been good in a way that we didn't come up here immediately, although we were still pretty powerful before we saw the moon.
So, it may well be that even if you had chosen not to pay this check sooner rather than later, that you would have turned around as soon as you saw who this was. Because as Chad is pointing out, we did get the Magma Key extremely early. You could have come here as early as 3 or 4 minutes into the seed.
Absolutely, and while we're waiting to see what shoe drops out of this particular footless boss here, now's a great time to give a quick shout out, by the way, to our restreamer Xenocat and our tracker Stoppable Force for both the rolling and keeping track of a very wonderful seed today. Make sure you give them both a follow as well as both of our runners. Let's see what this item is. That's the Earth Crystal. Keyless Tower was the play, and you were not getting a tower key before you went up here.
And that is go mode for Zilch. That Earth Crystal is the last required key item for his play.
Clock is ticking on GeminiHero's side, but you know what? Not for lack of trying. Had a bit of a rough mid-game, but has definitely pulled it back around. Won't be a lot behind at this point, but it is definitely Zilch's race to lose at the moment.
I will point out that this Earth Crystal will presumably be giving us Tower Key at the end, so, except in the sense that Zilch has not found the package, or has selected not to take the package because of fading that D-looter check, we have found all 17 key items between the two players.
Definitely. I think in Zilch's case, the scarier option than it being Keyless Tower is what if it's that D-Lunar fight? So he's probably almost breathing a sigh of relief right now that it wasn't those D-Lunars and he doesn't have to go back down the Fey March.
As far as I'm concerned, the only real problem I would have with going back down there is the amount of time it takes to get back there.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just right now we're in that point where any amount of time spent that's not immediately running to Zeromus or an objective feels like an eternity right now.
Yes. Zilch has arrived in Zot. Considering the state of go mode, we are going to see Zilch immediately ascend to the top of this tower. There is a single trap test in Tower of Zot, but it's far too late for Zilch in this seed for that to be of any relevance here.
Yeah, it's not even a great percentage chance either. The way I kind of see it on T Wildish, there's kind of like 3 different tiers of trap chests. You have Lunar Subterrane, then you have the like Sylph Cave, Castle Evelyn tier. This is that bottom tier alongside like Lower Babel and Land of Summon Monsters. The chances of spiking something out of this aren't even that great, even if we'd have come here earlier.
Alright, not even electing to save, just elects to go to the boss spot. And that is the Alt Gauntlet. So, while required, the only real threat we're going to see from this Alt Gauntlet here is in terms of time.
This is going to be a bit of a long gauntlet because it's Slime Gauntlet.
We do fortunately have Flame Edge along here to get through to overcome that pile of physical defense here.
Yeah, otherwise you'd be like, what, Rosa White and hope that all 4 of them go down in quick turns.
Yeah.
GeminiHero's through this Crystal Sword altar. I believe that is his last moon altar he has. Just needs to head back down and do that giant now. Will be a short ways behind Zilch.
Gemini does elect to take the Excalibur, presumably for future dark use. And we've only seen Gemini head down to the giant hitting moment now.
Yeah, Gemini also has Exit, which Zilch does not have because Rosa does not learn it until you get out of the Tower of Zot, so that might also be factoring in there because Zilch would have had to basically run the entire length instead.
Yes.
That's Zilch. Oh, right, Cecil. I always forget Cecil learns Exit.
It's not something which comes up particularly often, but yes, Cecil does learn Exit.
Yeah, me with a Cecil in the seed, like, I'm going to use Exit every time I get, because I know that you're going to have MP for it no matter what. But the second that I not actually playing this game, don't have a Cecil in my party, I'm just like, you know what? Cecil never learned anything.
Well, it's pretty much the only spell of consequence that Cecil learns in most cases.
Cecil desperately trying to heal himself here too.
That usually doesn't end well. Gemini is turning in the rat tail right now. We'll pick up that Baron key, and we'll be following along at a distance, so to speak.
Yeah, still has to do the giant at some point. There is our Fu, was hiding up here on the top of the tower all along. We're gonna say hi Fu, we're gonna say goodbye Fu, and then we're gonna go from there.
I think when Gemini catches up, Gemini will take that Fu, but Zilch probably will not.
Oh yeah, definitely. Gemini can just slap that curse string on Fu instead, and it's just a free upgrade to Tella. In Zilch's case, it's like, who are you going to get rid of? You're going to get rid of the Rosa? I mean, probably not. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't.
There's our duplicate Black Mage of the Seed. Just as unlikely to be taken here. Goodbye, Fu. Goodbye, Paladin number 2. And, Chat Funny Gut, we believe Gemini does not have a curse ring at this point in time.
That's right, I keep forgetting it. Zilch who has the curse ring, and the sort of unconventional agility setup at this point in time with the very high-level Rosa who is cursed, but still working out fine for him.
That is Bahamut in the second Zot spot. I believe that was a 4 before Bahamut died.
Yeah, we're not going to be learning counting with Bahamut today, unfortunately. He's not feeling well, needs to go take a rest, and we wish him the best in the future here.
Yeah, we've already had our share of counting back at Mount Ordeals. Alright, that is the last obstacle between Zilch and Zeromus. I believe we're going to see the tower key here as the pickup for the item, because that's the only thing left that we can find here. There it is. That's completely irrelevant at this point in time, because that is the last objective on the board for Zilch, and that is the crystal in hand.
Absolutely, it's a nice little nap before heading on to the toughest fight in the game, which might not look all that tough on Zilch's side, but can always throw a wrench in your best plans here.
Yeah. This is a party setup where, assuming Zilch plays correctly, Zeromus is not going to pose very much of a threat.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I'm not sure what agility that Rosa is sitting at, because I have never had a moment where I've used a cursed Rosa as an anchor, and I don't know what that actually means. But well, I think we're still in good shape here.
Yeah, we're about to find out, and I'm starting to see some flags coming out in chat. We did just have our nap just before heading into the Zeromus fight, but I don't think that's what they mean.
Absolutely. Let me throw on my best theme park ride attendant voice to say, please make sure you have all your arms, legs, and your cameras and phones and whatnot safely secured within the car, because you're about to go on a wild ride here through this Zeromus fight. We cannot move that Zeromus. Once this Zeromus is going, he cannot be stopped except by, actually finishing the fight. So just keep in mind that we can only randomize the sprite. We can't move them around, can't do anything else. There are over 550 different sprites. You don't know what you're going to see until you get in there. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
It is but cute, and many other such incidental questions.
Who is Zeromus cosplaying today is a good alternate question.
Does it even have a butt? Etc., etc.
Whose cuisine reigns supreme, that sort of question.
Here's the crystal. We'll see the costume du jour any moment now. I guess QLX does star in a Final Fantasy game sometimes after all.
Oh, so this is where he is in Final Fantasy IV. That makes sense. Yeah, this is QLX from the hit game Super Mario RPG, from the hit game Final Fantasy IV, we promise. And no crystals today. That'll make this fight a lot easier.
Like, the only crystal in this fight is the one we're throwing at Z to begin with.
It's kind of like reverse QLX, isn't it? Because in the actual QLX fight, Mario RPG, you have to deal with all 4 of those crystals, and they're throwing out all sorts of nasty things at you, and in this case, it's just throw the crystal at QLX and then hit him in the face punch with your really strong sticks.
Great. Well, you did see several rounds of attacks before that first big bang went off. I think we are in good shape with this fight.
Yeah, I don't think we even threw the silk web. I think this is just full speed, and we might still not even see the second Big Bang here.
Yeah, that looks like a full-strength Big Bang.
Definitely, and I want to say that GeminiHero is through that Baron Castle Throne fight gonna be knowing now that Keyless Tower is to play. Will be on his way very shortly afterwards here. Alright, so just getting these swings out here. Cecil hitting for about 6,500, Edge hitting for 5,000. Yeah, this fight is not long for this world here.
There's the second shake. I don't think this is going to last long enough for the second Big Bang to actually come out. We might see rocks, though. Speaking of, there is Meteor. That indicates Zeromus is less than 12,000 health, so he will not last another round.
Absolutely, and I think it's probably safe to say that Zilch is going to take this home. Yes, there goes Zeromus at this point in time. Zilch takes the win and the right to move on to the play-in match against Martin Broadcloak next week. And with that, I believe we are joined by Zilch for an interview. First of all, GG's on your win today.
Thank you.
Alright, so just to sort of start us off here, when you got back from the moon and you were still looking for that Baron Key, still looking for that Earth Crystal, what was going through your mind at that point in time where you just sort of had that rat tail on the board and you knew that somewhere on Earth was the last thing you needed?
I guess there was part of me that was a little nervous since I caught a bit of Gemini's race the other day, and I remember he definitely did all of Baymarch before doing anything else. So I figured if the D-Lunars had something, could be in a little bit of trouble there. And then Keyless Tower, well, it wouldn't be the first time I've lost to Keyless Tower. So that's just one of those where, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So
those two were in the back of my mind. Definitely
yeah.
A little nervous about them, but figured whatever.
So we did see you immediately upon getting that Darkness Crystal from the Mom Bomb fight, chose to fade the D-Lunars entirely rather than taking that check while you were down there. Is that sort of the similar line of logic that you had going there?
If it was something I could have just berserked and beat, I would have done it. But I only had, I think, 3 Star Veils, so if I was going to do frogs, I would ideally want more Star Veils after that for any future fights. I don't think I'd be able to get through it by zerking just because the viruses would probably kill Cecil. But I'm not positive on that. So it's one of those where I'd have to invest resources more than time into it, and then I'd have to spend more time restoring those resources because I didn't know where Star Bears were sold. So which probably was ignoring the object that we got from it, which from checking through the last 15 minutes of restream, sounds like that was the package. But ignoring that, if I had burned through all my Star Veils, I would have had problems on the Giant, so happy I made that choice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you played a very, very good match there, getting through everything pretty quickly and pretty easily. I mean, this seemed through a lot of power at you early on. What goes through your head in these flags when you get, you know, that Excalibur and Adamant armor really, really early and you just have that full power right from the start? Is it something that, you know, sort of works out better for you in the end, or is it something where you're like, all right, we're sort of on even keel, I really got to go fast here?
Yeah, once you get those, it's kind of just like, all right, there's like maybe 3 bosses that are a problem for anything that, you know, that can cause problems. So it's just like, just go, save as little as possible, and just assume you're just going to be able to blaze through the rest of the seed. So that's kind of the mindset at that point. I did save in between the giant fights, only because I realized I haven't seen DKC yet, or if I did, I don't remember it. And that not that I would have wiped to it, but I didn't want to risk doing the Wyvern again at Battle Speed 6.
I don't think anyone wants
in general,
to
just I'd go.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to risk taking that fight, no matter who's there. But no one's going to want to risk showing through 65,000 health again, going through that spot.
Yeah, Golbez would have been fine too, just because Starveil and back is fine and Cecil, and you'll get through that fight. But DKC was the only problem there. Gauntlet would have been annoying, but yeah.
So one other thing that caught my attention, when people think of how they want to set up their agility and anchoring for the Zeromus fight, Rosa is usually not the character that comes to mind, curse ring or otherwise. Was there ever a point in the seed, even with the curse ring in hand, where you thought that that might pose a problem and considered maybe taking other characters for that purpose?
No. Adamant armor should give enough agility to offset any problems Rosa would have. I'm not positive Cecil was at RA1, but he also had an adamant armor and Excal, so I don't really care.
Absolutely. I mean, that's fair enough. And of course, with this win, this does mean that you will be going into the play-in matches next week against Martin Broadcloak, a rematch between the two of you. Are you looking forward to that match?
Yeah, I think he's up a game on me. We played in the last tournament. I think he won that series 2-1, and then this tournament so far he's 1-0. So I guess he's up 2 games on me. So I think I'm overdue for a win against him. So excited to actually make that happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you definitely showed today that you have what it takes, and I'll be very much looking forward to that match because I think it's going to be a really, really close one.
Yeah, me too. It should be a fun one.
And with that, Esperant, did you have any other questions today?
I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover on my side.
Absolutely. Zilch, do you have any final thoughts for us tonight?
Always enjoy getting a cursed ring right away, because then you don't have to shop anymore. Lovely feeling. But other than that, thanks for commentary, restreaming, and tracking. Appreciate it. Look forward to watching it back. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Absolutely. Thank you again. At 3-2, heading out of this group round, Zilch is in the play-ins next week. Please make sure you tune in for that when it eventually gets scheduled. Meanwhile, we're heading back over to Gemini's side, where he is on the Giant now, taking care of this Wyvern fight.
Well, from what we've seen so far, Wyvern has taken care of this party at least once so far.
Yeah, it's kind of par for the course with Wyvern. I think if you get him in one fight without wiping to him once, you've come out ahead most of the time. So
you need to be very on top of things for that not to happen on a surprise Wyvern encounter. But it looks like the fight is much better in hand this time around.
Yeah, definitely. This is not going to pose too much of a threat. You'll get a good chunk of experience through this, be able to berserk up very easily to get through that Kenatsu fight at that second spot. Then just needs to go up to tower and complete that as well, which won't be too far away. That'll be it for him at that point.
The difference here, of course, is that Gemini did elect to take that D-Lunar fight much earlier on in the seed, and as we had speculated on before, is now going to last location Keyless Tower.
Well, he does have the Earth Crystal in hand, so we do know that he has already gone up that Keyless Tower, already gotten that Ogre Pogo spot down, just needs to actually head back to the tower.
That is one dead Wyvern.
Absolutely, and the dead turtle will be next at this point in time, because this is pretty well set. He's at even higher levels than Zilch was, roughly the same amount of power, maybe a little bit less because he doesn't have that cane swinging, but he's in good shape right now.
I expect, as we had mentioned, that we were going to see Gemini immediately turn around and save, because who wants to go through that fight again? That is exactly what's happening.
You know, it never really pays to take a risk on having to redo a Wyvern fight. Remember to turn the battle speed back up. Always definitely a good thing, because again, I am probably about 1 for 20 and actually remember to turn the battle speed back up after Wyvern fights, so...
Yeah, you don't want to spend too long on Wyvern daylight time after all.
Yeah, we don't have to take down the numbers off of the Dazed Sense of BS6 fight after Wyvern board at all. It gets to stay at presumably 1 because it always happens.
Okay, we're now in the turtle fight. The Berserks have come out. We're going to see a wave right now. This is not going to do very much. We did not do very much.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Gemini has played a very good race. Again, he did have that rough spot. Maybe spent a bit of extra time in menus as well. Might be worth working on at some point in time, but really shown that he can sort of hang with top runners, even if he doesn't necessarily take that victory in the end.
Yeah, for most of the first half of the seed, at least, right up until that divergence in Feymarch, we did see both of these runners basically neck and neck with each other, just swapping between tracks, but mostly being in the same places at the same time. And that's admirable.
Yep, definitely gonna pick up this Rydia, who's gonna just chill in the Tower of Wishes for the rest of the game. Just needs to head up to the Earth Crystal location. The question in my mind is, does he remember to swap airships first? Or does he, take the Chocobo from Baron? Because if he parks this whale at Baron and then has to come back to Troya for that pass afterwards, that could be a little bit of a wrinkle, because it gives you the Enterprise back at Baron afterwards, so we'll see here.
Looks like we are taking the whale to Troya.
Yeah, the whale in Troya is always fun for me to see because it kind of overlaps the town a little bit, and you got to think there's just some people out in the edge of the Troya suburbs are like, there's that whale in their yard again, just blocking out the sun. We need to get new neighbors.
Yeah. If you look closely, there is one poor house that gets completely, at the very least, overshadowed, if not outright crushed by the whale, if you land it there. So, the poor unfortunate residents there.
It's really inconsiderate, honestly, but
Very.
These fights shouldn't pose too much of a problem. GeminiHero here with sort of the final rundown. I want to give another quick shout out to both of our runners for agreeing to be restreamed, agreeing to join this tournament, putting up very good shows throughout this tournament as well. And also, again, to the restream team behind the scenes, Xenocat on the actual restream and Stoppable Force on the tracking. This has been a wonderful race, and looking forward to the end of it here.
So let's not also forget to give a shout out to my co-commentator, Nth, in the booth today.
And a shout out to you as well, Esgrunt. Always
Thank
a
you.
great time. Sort of a newer face in the restream team, and we're very glad to have you.
And we are now back at the so-called slime gauntlet. We're going to be here for a little bit longer.
Yeah, that flame thankfully taking care of it. Even if we didn't have that flame, GeminiHero would be in a uniquely good spot for this compared to Zilch, because that Tella could actually take care of it. But in this case, just flame, that should be fine.
Yeah, I do want to point out that we have Edge in the anchor spot here. Considering how high level Edge is here, is going to be outspeeding basically any boss you can have in these spots. So we're seeing this fight go through a lot faster because the gauntlet is not getting attacks off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always interesting to see, even when the race is kind of over at this point, Zilch having already finished, it's always interesting to see where the runner who ends up behind in the end, ends up in sort of the second place position, makes up time that they would otherwise have lost. And this is definitely one that is going to make up a lot of time there.
That is the fourth fight, one more to go, and this will be over as quickly as the other ones were.
I believe this is the last wave. It's gone by blazingly quick, and that was not an intentional pun until I realized as I was saying with those flames going out there and really easily through. I think, here's the question, do you take that foo at this point? If you're Gemini.
If it were me and this were my party and this were the position I'm in, I would take Fu instead of Tella here.
Yeah, the only wrinkle is I'm not sure what Fu's base non-cursed agility situation is like versus Tella at the level he's at, it might throw an extra wrinkle into that agility situation, not having any of that manipulation gear. I don't think it's going to matter in the long run anyways, because honestly, I think you could go into the Z fight with the party GeminiHero has and clear it without even caring about your agility, but it's the difference between, you know, cruise control and a white knuckle ride down the highway, so to speak.
And we do see Gemini taking food instead of Tella.
Yeah, gonna get him set up to just do a little bit of help here. Might do somewhat of hybrid strats a little bit. Might as well bounce a few nukes off with that foo if he's not going to be cursed, and should be through this into the Zeromus fight very soon.
Here's Bahamut again. Bahamut will... Let's see how far along in our count Bahamut gets this time around. My guess is not at all. And I'm correct. Not even a 5.
It's getting harder and harder to learn how to count with free enterprise every single day as we get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, you just can't count on this party, apparently.
It's a real shame. But Bahamut already over and done with. Gemini really showing what the difference is between a slow anchored party in these overworld spots and a fast anchored party in these overworld spots, in terms of just, you know, how quickly he's gotten through this, and will be on his way to Troya to head to the Zeromus fight soon. Still looking at just under 2 hours here for this seed, where he basically 100%ed the entire thing except that super cannon room.
Yep, and the tower key is, of course, and the crystal are the last key item pickups of Gemini's End, so we do have a true 17 of 17 on Gemini's End.
You love to see it. Who doesn't like more free enterprise? I mean, I know I'm always a fan of it. Yeah, this has been a very, very good sort of finale match to the group stage of the tournament. Obviously, we have the play-ins next week and any tiebreakers that we need to do. Gemini is going to have to do the hike to Troya due to the whale being parked there, but he'll be there very short.
Yeah, fun fact, that last bridge is not present in vanilla Final Fantasy IV. In order to get back to Troy, if you've done exactly this, you need to take a chocobo.
And if you don't know where those chocobos are, and you're like in the 90s before the internet was a cornucopia of information, you don't maybe have internet access, you basically soft-locked yourself by doing that accidentally, which is not a fun time.
Yep. And maybe partly due to that reason that I habitually never park the whale there, because I don't want to have to put myself through that.
Yeah, I think you have to do it with the Falcon in vanilla, because by the time you have the whale, I don't think you can re-leave Troya without, like, intentionally using a chocobo. And obviously, if you're using a chocobo, you know chocobos are there, you know how to get through.
Yeah.
But it's something that can happen.
Alright, Gemini has now caught up and is now about to meet Culeximus.
Yeah, here's the big question. Does Gemini come in at under 2 hours? I think he should be fine. This shouldn't take more than a couple minutes, but you never know. There's always a chance for these Zeromus fights to go a little bit sideways. 20 agility foo, according to our tracker, Stoppable Force. Not the best agility setup, but with 2 adamant armors, does it really matter when everyone's at over 3,000 health?
And I can't see this fight being a problem.
Yeah, if I were on Gemini's side, I'd be tempted to just, you know what, Berserk, Cecil, and Edge, and then just sit on Rose's turn and do nothing. Maybe before the first big bang, throw out, you know, some nukes and whites, reflect them off of food, but get that Berserk going and just take the free fight from there.
There is a Silk Web going out, interestingly choosing to nerf the first big bang. This is not necessarily a party setup where that's going to be necessary. We do only have 2 Berserkers in this party, as opposed to the Kane that Zilch had in his own fight. So perhaps that's just concern for the damage shot. We do see some of those darts coming out now as well.
Yep, and there's a nuke on Rosa that's not even going to put her in danger of falling to this big bang at all anyways, with it being nerfed. We're in really good shape.
Yeah, we can certainly see the difference in damage output compared to 2,000 plus for what the unnerved Big Bang there would have been. We do see the wall come out. We do see some spells coming up to be reflected over to Zeromus just for additional damage. Who is, in fact, putting in some work here?
Absolutely, might as well reflect new, reflect white. Both are going to be doing about 5,000 or more per swing. Cecil doing about 6,600. Edge running out of darts, but has Bacchus wines ready to go with that Star Veil on to reflect off of. We're in full-on pedal to the metal mode. This will not take very long at all.
Here comes the white. This will hit for quite a bit of damage. There's the quad 9. You'll love to see it.
There's the shake, but that might have been the phase transition HP refill shake at this point in time. Not entirely sure. I honestly haven't been counting with that Bahamut falling so quickly. I might not be the best person to be counting right now anyways. I'm going to hold on to this joke throughout the rest of this year.
You realize we're going to have to hold you to account for that, right?
Absolutely. I take full accountability.
Alright, there's Rock. This fight is basically done.
Yeah, Fu's not even going to run out of MP. That's how strong this party is right now.
Interesting that we see the Cure 4 there. That's not something you need to do at this point in the fight.
Safety's always a good thing to have, you know?
There's the crack through. Fu getting the final hit on Zeromus to come in second in our race tonight.
Absolutely, and we'll see if Gemini wants to hop in for an interview. GG's to him on a very well-run race. I don't know the official time quite yet, but it's probably right around that 157 mark. So while we're waiting for GeminiHero to pop in here, I want to give a quick note, a sort of programming notice for you all. Tomorrow night, we do have a special event going on. We are recording a submission for SGDQ 2022, and we will be, I believe, streaming it on the Free Enterprise channel at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, so make sure you drop by to catch that as well. Still just going to be a moment here waiting for GeminiHero to join us. I believe we are now joined by Gemini. GG's on your race today.
Thank you, yeah. It was kind of an interesting conclusion. I was like super high level at the end, but I think I raced more or less the best seed I could under the circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you showed a lot of skill in this seed. I know the result might be a little bit sort of a shock to see on the numbers end, but you were really keeping up through most of the seed, and I think that that's definitely worth noting. One big question I have for you at this point in time, one of the differences between you and Zilch in terms of strategy is you ended up taking that D-Lunar fight down at the bottom of Feymarch. What led you to want to take that fight at that point in time?
So the way I was thinking about it, Mom Bomb there was kind of like a certainty. I know that fight has a lot of HP and hits really hard physically. It wouldn't be like too much trouble for me to take, but I thought, well, if I have to do both Feymarch fights, which I guess I was conditioned to think, you know, maybe I'm going to try taking those anyways at this point, I want to see what the uncertain one is first. I want to see what the Sparkle is. And when I saw it was D-Lunar, I know it can be kind of a long fight, but I thought to myself, okay, it's a long fight, but it's free. If I get Star Veils up, I bounce Breath, it's not going to be a problem. It just ended up taking, I guess, a lot longer than I thought. I think my Battle Speed 3 kind of contributed to that a little bit, but yeah, that definitely was more of a slog than I anticipated, and obviously I didn't get rewarded for it, unfortunately.
So one of the other major differences that we noticed is that with Hook in hand on the way back from the moon, I believe it was, or perhaps it was before heading up to the moon, I don't quite remember at this point, admittedly, but we We did see you venture into Cave Evelyn and check the character there and take Tella instead of the cane that you had built up at this point. We presumably do for anchoring reasons, but I want to hear it from you as to what motivated you to make that call.
Right, yeah, so that's exactly right. At that point, I was thinking to myself, I think that was before that I went down and fought the bosses in Feymarch. I knew I had more than enough power to deal with anything in Feymarch, but if the Sparkle there was like, say, a Wyvern, or something where the speed would really be a problem, at that point I had a very strong party, but nobody, like everyone was very fast. So I didn't really have any curse strings. The Drain Sword on Kain wasn't gonna cut it at that point. So I needed a floor mop, basically. I needed somebody to anchor for me under those circumstances, and you can't ask for a much better anchor than Tella under those circumstances, because I finished Ordeals. He has his full catalog of spells to do support, and I have like 2 very strong Zerkers to deal with anything that I need them to deal with, so Kain at that point felt a little redundant. He wasn't doing like a ton, besides maybe just being another Berserker, so I figured he was the most expendable of the trio.
And even with Tella's unique suitability to being an anchor under the circumstances, upon finding Fusoya in Zot, you swapped Tella out in favor of Fusoya. What was the thinking behind that as well?
Right, so from previous experience, the Zeromus fight, especially at that point, I was way overpowered. I was just like, I need as much damage as possible. I just need to finish this as quick as I possibly can. Fusoya, under those circumstances, to me, is just better Tella. He's got more MP to cast stuff with. He has more HP to maybe survive a big bang with. He has way more damage in terms of being able to cast White and Nuke. And 20 agility is definitely more than Tella had, I think, at that point. I gave Tella some accidental experience on the moon and over the course of the seed from that point. But even at 20 agility, everyone else was so fast that was still more than enough to, I think, be RA1 on Zeromus, or at least fast enough that it wouldn't have mattered.
Well, with 2 adamant armors in hand, not much is going to be posing you much of a threat at this point in time.
That's very true, yeah.
And did you have any other questions for Gemini at this point?
Just one sort of last question I have for you. Unfortunately, with this loss, it does mean you are eliminated from the tournament. You put in a very, very good effort so far. What's next for you as far as randomizer is concerned? Is it going to be ladder? You're looking forward to the next tournament? What is next for you here?
On the one hand, I feel like I was thinking about taking a small break after this, because it's been like a lot of randomizer every day, every other day. But on the other hand, like the past couple of races I've done, I've seen a fair bit of improvement in my play, generally. Yeah, there was definitely things on this seed that could have been cleaned up to the tune of maybe 10-15 minutes over the run, if I made all the same decisions but just did things better. And I kind of keep thinking about that, so I'm kind of interested in pursuing more stuff after this. I don't know exactly what form that's going to take. I do tend to like tournament seed sets like this more than I do the kind of wackier, more kind of interesting week-by-week seed stuff that I see sometimes. But on the other hand, yeah, I would definitely like to pursue more randomizer in the future, kind of keep my skills sharpened up, and then try again next tournament. See what all that takes me.
Absolutely. So with what I've seen from you in these last 2 matches, you'll definitely be one of the players to look out for in that tournament. So I definitely look forward to seeing it. Do you have any final thoughts for us tonight?
I'm trying to think right now. I'm just curious about one thing, I guess. The redive that I did back to... Actually, how early did I have the Legend Sword? Because I think I forgot to mark it until the very end. I for some reason didn't even register that I had it. So like, how quickly could I have forged Excal instead of rediving into Castle Eblin for it?
The Legend Sword, if I remember correctly, was
Sheila 1.
Yes,
oh,
that's correct.
Okay. Wow, so I had it pretty early. I think I did have it before rediving Castle Eblin then. That's all right. It wouldn't have made too much of a difference. And I'm not sure the shop had anything of particular value. I guess all I have to say is let this be a lesson to everyone out there. Make sure to check armor shops early in the game, in addition to the item shops, because apparently I missed a curse ring in Troya, the very first shops that I checked, because I just checked the item once and then left. So can't never underestimate those. That's all I got on that front, I think.
Absolutely. Again, GG's, and thank you so much for joining us for this interview. Looking forward to seeing you around the community here in the future as well.
All right, big thanks to the commentators and the restreamers. Thank you all so much for putting on this event. It's been very fun to take part in it as a first timer, and I look forward to the next one.
All right, and with that, I think we have reached the end of our restream for tonight. I want to give a quick shout out to our behind the scenes team again, Xenocat on the restream, Stoppable Force on the tracking, as well as all of the tournament admins and all the participants in this tournament as well. It has been an absolutely wonderful 3 weeks of group play. We've got one more week on these flags coming up with the play-ins starting on Tuesday. And Escron, I believe that's going to be it for us today.
Well, it might be it for us today. It's certainly it's also the end of the third week of the tournament, of course, but it's certainly not the end of the tournament by any means, and it's certainly not the end of free enterprise in our near future. In addition to the special broadcast tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern for the SUDQ submission flags, you can look forward to the rest of the tiebreakers and play-ins this coming week. If you're not already on our Discord, it is well worth a join, not only because you'll be able to get information about when those matches are taking place and where they're being restreamed, but also because it's a great community to be a part of. And speaking of practice and tiebreakers, with the end of our broadcast tonight, we will be sending you all over to John Burkhead, who is currently practicing a group flag seed in order to participate in an upcoming tiebreaker this coming week. So,
and remember, no spoilers.
No spoilers, you get the newspaper. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next time.